Hello friends, welcome to day 3 of my daily tutorials during the COVID-19 outbreak. Today we are going to pick up the butterfly. This is going to be our first trick that involves us kind of looking down the profile of the poi and everything. So it'll be our first exposure to something called wall plane. What exactly is that? Well, tune in to find out. Drex here from DrexFactor.com, bringing the love of poi and flow arts into your world. And today that's taking the form of teaching you the butterfly and perhaps more. Before we dive in, I just want to give a quick shout out to the friends of the channel. Big thanks to Dark Monk, Flow Toys, Pyroterra Light Toys, LMF Props, Spinballs, and Ultrapoi for helping to make the videos on this channel possible. You can learn more about all these amazing companies and the work that they're doing to support flow artists like yourself by checking out the links that I've got down in the description of this video. Okay, so housekeeping. First up, I went grocery shopping this morning. That was not actually as traumatic as I was expecting. Believe it or not, the only 2 things that I was looking for that I couldn't find were pasta and toilet paper, and I still have a half a roll of toilet paper to go, so I'm not that worried about it just yet. Also, I got to catch the season premiere of Westworld, which was a super fun way to close out my night last night. So, the shot where Dolores is beating up the security guys and everything, that like one take shot and everything. Oh shoot, hashtag spoilers, sorry. Personally, as a camera and film geek and everything, I was just like, wow, that was awesome. I'm kind of curious, what is your binge watching show of choice during the COVID-19 outbreak? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love some recommendations. So now that I have talked your ear off about literally everything except for poi, let's learn some poi, yeah? Now, yesterday we learned our basic reel turns. I will go ahead and link to that tutorial down in the description and everything, so you can check that out if you missed it. But you might be noticing that those reel turns have a really interesting quality to them in that the poi are always on either side of your body, yeah? It's always like as the poi are spinning, they're kind of creating a hallway with one wall on each side of you, yeah? We would refer to this as wheel plane, and because we have a tendency to give things more confusing rather than less confusing names, there's also another way that we can spin poi that we call wall plane. That is when you're looking at the full profile of the poi as they're spinning, as opposed to looking straight down the kind of angle that they're spinning at as they're spinning at your sides, right? So it's wheel plane and it's wall plane. Okay, so how do we learn this new wall plane move, the butterfly? Well, we're going to start off by wrapping up the poi in our hands, and just like we did for reel turns, we're going to kind of walk through what that is just with our hands instead of the poi, because our hands don't have to deal with gravity as much, right? So imagine that your hands are the poi heads and that your arms are the tethers and that the handles are at your shoulders, right? In which case, you're going to have both of your hands sweeping up and around in front of you. I want your arms to cross as they come down right in front of you there, right? You may be thinking you're going to get away with this. No, no, no. They're going to fully cross. It's going to happen, all right? Now, I want you to get in 10 reps like this. And notice for me that if you are like me and most people, you have one hand that is almost always on top. For me, it's my right hand, and I think it's like a dominant hand thing because I am right-handed. But yeah, keep track of which hand that is. It'll become important quite a bit later on in this video. All right, you got your 10 reps in and it was beautiful. Now what you're gonna do is you're gonna let out one coil of the poi, so they're kind of hanging short from your arms and everything. And what you're gonna do now is go ahead and do that same exercise. Your arms are gonna do those big circles around, and you're gonna make like your poi are extensions of your arms. Now, there's a couple things that might happen when you try this out. The first is that the poi might be kind of floppy going over top and everything. That means you need to speed your hands up. It might also be that the poi are kind of wild up top. That means you need to slow your arms down. You might also have a question about whether or not the poi are going to hit each other at the top of this. They might indeed be doing that for you right now. Let me show you how you avoid that. So if you look down the side here, as I'm doing this, you'll notice a little thing. I'm gonna pull back the curtain a bit and tell you for once to pay attention to the poi spinner behind the curtain, yeah? Now, notice that when my left hand is going to the top of this, it is kind of tilted a little away from me. When my right hand is going near the top. It's kind of tilted back towards me. Now, the result of this is that as the two poi are getting up to the top of their paths here, they're missing each other. It's like a two-lane road, yeah? And here's the thing. The audience looking at that has no idea that they're not right in the same line. So take advantage of that and make sure that you're giving them at least a couple inches of clearance from each other as you're working through this, yeah? And once again, your goal is to get to 10 reps of this without the poi hitting each other or without them hitting you. All right, and once you've got those 10 reps down, I'm going to say let out that last coil to poi. I'm actually going to keep mine still just a little bit short because I'm 6 feet tall and I have #low ceilings in this apartment. So it's just going to be the same exercise, but now the poi at full length, yeah? The same tricks that we talked about last time apply. If the poi are going floppy up top, speed your hands up. If they're going kind of wild up top, slow your hands down. And again, try and make sure that you're getting a couple inches of clearance between the two poi on top. And we're going to work to get another 10 reps like this with our full arms and poi basically being extensions of each other. Outstanding. Now we're going to work to take our arms out of this equation. I want you to start off by imagining that instead of this move originating from our shoulders, it's instead going to originate from our elbows. You can either hold your elbows close to you, which is not a thing that I want to train people on per se, or you can kind of hold them away from you. It's going to feel a little awkward, but that's totally fine. Basically, you want to see if you can start drawing down the size of the circle. Remember, make sure those poi have a couple inches of clearance from each other on top, and make sure that they are crossing in the middle here. That is still really important. All right, so you've got 10 reps making these circles at your elbows. Now you're going to make them at your hands and wrists. Or at least that should be the goal for this. If you can do this from your elbows, then quite frankly, you've already done all of the work that I really hope that you can get done today. But if you can, work your way down to your hands and wrists, and if you get super comfortable with this, you can actually do it in such a way that your hands are touching each other the entire time, and the entire move is just coming from the poi themselves, yeah? Pretty cool, right? All right, so let me show you that in slow motion from a couple different angles here. Hey, you've learned your first wall plane move, a butterfly. Give yourself a round of applause there. Fantastic work. I will also say that I almost never do butterflies anymore because there's another move that's really similar that only takes a little bit more work to get down that I personally think actually looks a little bit better, and that is the thread the needle. In fact, I'm so used to doing thread the needles right now, I have blown at least half of the takes that I've done in this video of performing the butterfly simply because my brain now just defaults to this whenever my poi are spinning in opposite directions like this in wall plane. So, if you're up for a challenge, how about we talk about how to do that thread the needle today too? And it's going to start off the exact same way that we did with the butterfly. Remember how I was telling you to keep track of when you're doing these big circles with your arms, which arm is coming down on top each time? Well, here's why. Because in order to do a thread the needle, what you're going to do is you're going to switch which hand is on top each time. I'm going to have my left hand on top. I'm going to have my right hand on top. I'm going to have my left hand on top. I'm going to have my right hand on top. If you're like most people, this in itself is going to be a little bit like patting your head and rubbing your belly at the same time. It is probably going to take you a little bit of thought to be able to do this without having your brain be like, what's going on? This is one of those that I'm going to recommend that you actually work to get 20 reps in a row before starting to get the poi out, simply because you're asking your body to do something that is almost certainly going to be new information for it. And that's totally fine. And that's why we practice, and that's why we have the reps, yeah? Okay, so you got in your 10 reps, switching which hand was on top. Now it gets real. We're going to let out one coil of the poi. And again, go through right hand on top, left hand on top, right hand on top, left hand on top. Goodness. Our same trick for keeping the poi from running into each other still applies though, as I try very hard both to keep the poi from running into each other as well as from running into the backdrops in my home studio here. Now notice how whichever hand is on top, that is the poi that is kind of pointed slightly back at me. And whichever one is on bottom, that is the poi that is pointed slightly further away from me, yeah? Basically, when your arms go out to the sides, you're going to switch which of these poi is pointing further away from you as they go up and over, yeah? Okay, so we got in our 10 reps with one coil out. Let's let the full length of the poi out and try the same thing. Going right on top, left on top, right on top, left on top. Again, all of the usual weirdness applies in changing the speed of your arms and poi and everything, but also now you got to keep track of which poi is going to be on bottom each time. But the good news is that if you can do this with your arms, then I think the adjustment to doing it with your poi tends to be a bit smoother. And again, once we're comfortable with this, we can do 10 reps of it without hitting ourselves or having the poi hit each other. I want you to start doing smaller circles from your elbows, yeah? Now, technically speaking, this is recognizably a thread the needle. You have the trick right here. And if you got this far, congratulations. I'm going to call this day a big success for you. Well done. Now, when people really work on polishing this, they eventually get to a point where everything is happening in their wrists and their hands. And you have this interesting thing where basically your hands are just going straight back and forth past each other, yeah? Again, this is to get down over time as you get more and more comfortable with this move. But for today's purposes, this totally works. All right, and let me give that to you in slow motion from a couple different angles. Outstanding. Now, you may have noticed that thus far we've learned a poi trick with the poi spinning in the same direction at our sides, and of course a poi trick with the poi spinning in opposite directions in wall plane in front of us. So, obvious question, how do we get back and forth between these two moves? Well, the answer to that is coming tomorrow when I teach you how to do basic poi stalls. This is a transition tool that allows you to switch between a whole bunch of different types of poi tricks and everything. So make sure that you tune in for that, yeah? I want to see your work. Please keep me in the loop on this. Upload videos of yourself working on these tricks to Instagram or Facebook, and make sure to tag me. On Instagram, I am DrexFactor, and on Facebook, I am DrexFactorPoi. Let's stay connected throughout this entire process. I really want to see how this is going for you all. And of course, if you want more of a challenge and you want to learn more tricks, everything that I'm covering is also covered in a free course that I have available on my website called Spin Poi Like a Rockstar. If you just go to drexfactor.com and give me your email address, it is going to send you lessons in your inbox, and of course give you the option to download the entire course. It covers everything in this series that I'm doing this week, as well as more stuff as well. So if you want to jump on ahead, if you're feeling like you need more of a challenge, that would be a great way to do it. And pretty please, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Share these videos with friends, especially friends that you think might benefit from putting something new in their life, or that like just needs some kind of activity to engage in to keep the boredom away and everything throughout this process. I'm really looking forward to, in a few months, having hundreds, if not thousands, of new floamies that are now spinning that weren't before, because they have the time to work on this stuff, and they had that special friend, and by that I mean you, sharing this video with them so they could get on board with all this. And finally, I would really appreciate it if you would support this project and the work that I am doing by signing up to support me over on Patreon. The address is patreon.com/DrexFactorPoi. This is how I earn a big portion of my living, and what makes it possible for me to spend a week creating a tutorial every single day to be able to help other people out there and everything. These fine folks right here have already signed up to help, and I would appreciate it if you would too. You get a lot of perks, such as getting early access to my videos and everything, and of course it supports me and this work. So if you think that's important, please and thank you, go and sign up. All right, cool. So God willing, I'm not going to be completely insane by tomorrow. So we're going to learn how to do our stalls, and then we're going to finish out the week by learning how to take all of these tricks that we have been learning thus far and put them together into our first poi combo. Tune in for that because I'm excited to teach it to you. Now, hope you all have a good day and are in good health, and I will see you tomorrow. Peace.